Welcome back, students of Rabbi Yishak Arama, and welcome to the new students who are going to be studying with us the Akedat Yishak on Sefer Shemot. We're learning Parashat Shemot and the pasuk that describes one of the first requests that Moshe makes to Paro, and that is to let the Jewish people go for really just 3 days. V'shame'u lekolecha, says the pasuk in Perek Gimel, that they will listen to you. This is referring to Bnei Israel that start to trust Moshe Rabbeinu. Bata atav v'ziknei Israel, you'll take the elders of these people, El Melech Mitzrayim, to Paro v'amartem elav Hashem Elokei ha'ivrim nikra alenu. You're going to tell Paro that God has called upon you. You have to travel for 3 days Bamidbar, in order to serve your God as a form of a holiday, as a form of ritual service. But this is the request that Moshe makes to Paro. This has bothered the commentaries for generations. We'll see two unique approaches, that of Ibn Ezra, that of Shadal, and then we'll see the incredibly genius approach of Rabbi Yishak Arama explaining this pasuk. But the main issue essentially is what kind of a game are we playing over here? Is God, who's commanding Moshe to say this to Paro, lying when he says, let's just go out for 3 days? This seems to be a lie. And is God such that he would lie? Would God set such an example for the Jewish people who are supposed to be an honest nation? And this is what has troubled the commentators, and they've all approached it in different ways. The Ibn Ezra says, V'daki Moshe Adonenu lo amar leParo sheyashuvu. If you go back to the pasuk, he never says he's going to go back. He just says he's going to go for 3 days. If the Egyptians on their own assumed that was meaning that they're going to go back after 3 days, then let them assume that incorrectly. But there was never an outward, straight up lie. That's the Ibn Ezra's approach to this, saying that God for sure did not lie. And it was just a limited amount of information that Moshe was giving to Paro, and Paro's imagination, or the Egyptians' imagination, filled in the rest incorrectly. Shadal says, no, he did lie. This is an outward lie. This was trickery. They never intended to come back. They weren't even trying to pretend like they were intending to come back. And since Paro, the Egyptians, were enslaving the Jewish people completely unjustly, don't be surprised that God commanded to play the very same game with those oppressors, with those evil people, with those that are tricking Bnei Israel, that he's playing the same game back with them, that he is tricking Paro to let them go for 3 days, but really they are not intending to return at all. This is the approach of the Shadal, that essentially it was justified. The lie is justified because of the evil nature of the Egyptian society and what they've done to the Jewish people. Yishak Arama takes a very unique approach, different, and he says, Zot hayta etza amuka elokit. This was an incredibly genius, godly advice that Hashem gave to Moshe. Leharot lechol chozek libo vekoshi orpo shel Paro. This was all done knowing that Paro was going to say no. And the intention was never that they were going to go for 3 days and then come back. The intention was never that Paro would even say yes to the 3 days. But rather, it was essentially a test onto Paro to demonstrate essentially to the Jewish people how stubborn and how vile Paro and the Egyptians are. This is also to justify all the punishments that are going to come onto Paro. And such, when Moshe asks, just let us go for 3 days, maybe they're going to spend some time there, and by the time that they get back, so maybe a total of 10 days, a very legitimate request for them to ask. And that they're going to come back eventually. Paro didn't say yes to this request. He refused such a legitimate request, such a small request. And this was to show Am Yisrael, to show everyone the wickedness of Paro, and to demonstrate how Paro is not going to let them go ever. If he's not going to let them go for 3 days, you think he's going to let them go out of slavery? You think he's going to let them go to Eretz Canaan? Absolutely not. This is a gigantic wake-up call for Bnei Israel, a proof to Bnei Israel, a proof to those who are saying, listen, it might be bad, but it could get worse. Or it might be bad, but it may get better. This is to show them that no, it's not going to get better. There is one plan and one plan only, and that is Yetziat Mitzrayim. And before Hashem can take Bnei Israel out, Bnei Israel have to be ready to do so. And this test, essentially, that Paro failed miserably, but went directly according to plan, is to demonstrate why the Egyptians need these makot to let the Jewish people go, because they were holding on and refusing to let them go no matter what, and to convince Bnei Israel to follow along with the plan of Moshe and Hashem. This is the unique approach of Rabbi Yitzchak Arama. There is no lie. There is no hiding of the truth. This is a test onto Paro to get Bnei Israel on the side of the right side of history. Zagu Baruch. Hope you enjoyed this learning of Rabbi Yitzchak Arama. Stay tuned for Parashat Va'era as we continue the limud of the Akedat Yitzchak.